And I would like to thank the organizers and Satish and Dr. Govind for inviting me to share a perspective. I've been asked to share my perspective on the multi-stakeholder model evolution. And I think I have a sense of why I'm being asked to do that. And I will just take a moment to share that with you because I believe it's an interesting vantage point. Are you able to hear me in the back? I see waving. Okay, excellent. So I am a Malaysian citizen, and I have experienced several different multi-stakeholder initiatives. It started with my first job with the Malaysian government. Basically, I was involved in national ICT policy development. Here you have the HIIT, we refer to it as IT. In my country, we refer to it as ICT. So national policy development in my country involved consultations with private sector and civil society. And the consultation was actually led by government. It is a kind of multi-stakeholderism at work. And that's what I did in the first 4 years of my career. After that, I became the executive director of the Global Knowledge Partnership, which is a multi-stakeholder initiative in the field of ICT for development that focused on advocacy, knowledge sharing, and partnership building to address common concerns. And I served in that role for about 8 years. And it is an experience of leading and managing a global multi-stakeholder initiative. So actively practicing it, advocating, and managing the stakeholder engagement. During that time, I also served as Vice Chair of the Global Action Networks Council, which is a grouping of global multi-stakeholder initiatives focused on different issue areas such as climate change, poverty, corruption, health, all sorts of global scale problems. And essentially, all of these multi-stakeholder initiative groups wanted to come together to see how they can learn from each other on how to manage better and to problem solve. And currently, I'm a member of the ICANN Board of Directors. I'm selected by the community of individual internet end users, referred to as the at-large community. And ICANN for me is by far the most exciting multi-stakeholder experience I've ever had. And I do believe that it represents today the most advanced multi-stakeholder model there is for governance. And I would like to share with you why that is through the presentation. Can we go to the next slide?
Yeah.
So before I start, normally you'd have Q&A at the end. I would like to start in the beginning to actually gather some views from you on what you think multi-stakeholder is, and what purpose does it serve, who should be involved. If anyone is willing to share briefly so that we can gather as many views as possible, and then we keep these views in mind as we proceed with our discussion, that would be very useful.
That's the exact definition of multi-stakeholder.
It doesn't have to be exact, it just has to do with what you think it is. What is multi-stakeholderism, who should be involved, whether purpose should drive who should be involved or the other way around. Any views?
Participation from people of different arenas, of different interests.
Can you use the mic, please?
Okay.
Because we are recording this.
Yes, of course. Yes, please use the mic and please repeat what you just said. It's coming.
I think we can keep the mic for this time.
Okay, so participation and?
It is Anurag. Multi-stakeholders means participation by people of from different arenas, different interests, which may be impacted or which can impact.
Okay, excellent. Other views? Anyone? Yes, please, and then we'll go to you.
I'm Awal, inSIG fellow from Bangladesh. Multi-stakeholder means gathering of different stakeholders with their own interests and discussing on something that they really care about. And actually, for the second question, it's for everyone. Like, who should be involved? I think everyone should be involved in case of internet because we are netizen of the world. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Yes, please.
So this is Rinalia from China. And I think multi-stakeholder represents that everyone or each organization who has an interest could participate or be a member of conversation. And all the participants' interests should be equally represented, rather than people who are more powerful or who have more funds or resources.
Thank you. So within that response, I heard a governing principle, which is equality. Very good. So far, yes.
However, from China, and thanks for this question, and I think it should be different from the shareholder of the stakeholder. And the multi-stakeholder, in my mind, is from management definition, from the management of the economy, and it's not about the directly of the actors, also the indirect of the actors that have the interest in this field. So this is how we see it in my mind.
Thank you. Any other views? Okay, I'll take one more. Was there also a hand in front? Did you have something to say as well?
Each group which has an interest in the internet, for example, the private, the government, the civil society, those who wish to contribute how internet changes, all of the stakeholders. And to add to a question, I just want to understand how an individual asset who does not belong to any group can contribute in a multi-stakeholder model, which I can understand.
Thank you. So the reason that I asked for these views is that I wanted you to be informed about each other's perspective on multi-stakeholderism. And you will hear different ways of describing it. And there is no one correct way. But it's good to have a starting point. So with that, let's start our journey, the multi-stakeholder model. Let's go to the next slide. So this is what I have observed since I started working in what in my government, in the Malaysian government, was called tri-sectoral collaboration, which I now embrace as multi-stakeholderism. The multi-stakeholder model is a model for engagement and collaboration. It is used to foster consensus between diverging interests in the public domain, the private sector and civil society. And the rationale for it is actually, it emerged to address complex trans-border issues, where there is no global governance system that can address the complexity of the issues sufficiently. And the focus of the multi-stakeholder initiatives that I have seen emerge has been focused on problem solving, leveraging on the resources that stakeholders bring to solve the problem. So it's less about let's get everyone together and see what we can do together. It starts with a problem and then identifying who it is that need to be present so that we can solve the problem effectively. And that is the initial start of the global multi-stakeholder initiatives that I've seen. In terms of stakeholder engagement, the stakeholders engage based on interest. And the interests are dependent on the roles that stakeholders assume or are mandated in dealing with the problem as well as how they are impacted by the problem. So it's the roles that you wear, the hat, so the roles that you assume, the hat that you wear, and the interests that you have that bring you to the table. In terms of range of actors, there's supposed to be any combination of actors from government, which includes intergovernmental actors, business, academia, and civil society. And I have to share with you that there is a particular view that true multi-stakeholder approaches must involve actors from 3 sectors, at a minimum, specifically government, business, and civil society. This is a view that is held out there in the world. I'm not saying that it's mine or yours, I'm just saying it exists. Let's go to the next slide. So the origins of the multi-stakeholder model internationally began in the 1990s. And this is actually when non-state actors started to be allowed to participate in intergovernmental processes. So up until the 1990s, the nation-state and intergovernmental organizations have been the key agents for addressing global problems. This changed with the Rio Conference on the Environment and Development in 1992, where NGOs achieved legitimacy in terms of stakeholder participation and engagement. And the Rio Summit is said to be the first major international intergovernmental policy process to adopt a multi-stakeholder approach. And the driving factor for all of that, for including non-state actors, was essentially knowledge and expertise. The global environmental movement had always been driven by non-governmental actors, mainly civil society, but there was also business entities. And expertise lay with these practitioners as a movement of people, not with governments and its agencies. Following the success of the Rio Summit, and non-state actors proving that they had something to contribute and a role to play in solving global problems, the UN agencies basically proceeded with the thinking, yes, perhaps there is a value for including others other than governments. So what followed was the World Summit on Sustainable Development and the Monterey Conference on Financing for Development that brought in more private sector engagement. Again, the rationale was expertise and knowledge, because governments couldn't solve the problem themselves. And then we come to the World Summit on the Information Society, and I'm sure this is quite famous. I'm sure you've heard of it before, especially if you are working in the area of internet governance. This summit brought legitimacy to the multi-stakeholder involvement of government, private sector, and civil society itself. And that basically set the baseline for where we are today and how we are engaging with stakeholders. I want to take a moment to touch on the knowledge imperative. Every multi-stakeholder initiative that I have seen that focus on problem solving at the global level, irrespective of what issue area they work on, whether it is poverty or forestry management or water or food security, has a critical need for knowledge on how to solve the problem. And knowledge is provided both by the actors and the stakeholders that are engaged and affected, because they see different aspects of the problem itself, but also by experts, because you need people who have deep knowledge about specific aspects of the problem. But that's not enough. Within the multi-stakeholder initiative, you need a process of learning. And that has to happen among the stakeholders to figure out together how to address complex problems. Because the problem is new, it's newly emerging, extremely hard to solve, and you don't necessarily have ready knowledge to address that problem. And that's why knowledge and expertise are really important in any global multi-stakeholder initiative. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so you're already there. These are some examples of the global multi-stakeholder initiatives that have been operating in the world. Some of them still exist, some of them have achieved their mission and moved on to other things. So since the end of the Cold War, nearly 50 such initiatives have been established and making an impact in various fields of development, such as corruption, human rights, youth employment, and I've mentioned water and poverty before, as well as energy. So there are scholars who are studying multi-stakeholder initiatives and those that focus exclusively on initiatives that also involve UN agencies. And they've identified an additional 400 collaborative initiatives that focus on different ranges of activities. They're all very different, they operate differently in various combinations of actors, but what they have in common is the multi-stakeholder approach, which is the engagement of stakeholders. Beyond that, there's nothing that we can say as a set formula for how to go about doing this. Let's go to the next slide. So, in multi-stakeholder engagement or initiative, there is a range of collaboration activities. It could involve problem solving at the agenda setting level, where you have discussion about the problem and what could be done about it. And this would encompass activities such as agenda setting that sets priorities, advocacy, learning, and building the capacity for action learning. The Internet Governance Forum can be described as something that serves this purpose. The Global Knowledge Partnership, which I led before, also served this purpose. You could also have multi-stakeholder initiatives that focus on the second part, which is solutions development and delivery. And examples of this would be establishing rules, which includes standards, policy, and norms. And examples of initiatives that have focused on this is the World Commission on Dams and the Global Reporting Initiative. They could be focusing on financing or resourcing or mobilizing financing. An example would be the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization and the Partnership for Disaster Relief after the 2004 tsunami. They could also provide services and technical support or build capacity for those who would solve the problem or deliver the solution. This included the UNESCO World Economic Forum Partnership for Education. Or they could also just provide coordination support, and these entities included the UN ICT Task Force and the Global Water Partnership. ICANN does the full range, and that's something that's quite unusual about it. Let's move on. So in terms of the origins of multi-stakeholder initiative in ICANN, and I have to thank Adam Peake. Some of you may know him. He was a member of the community before, he was chair of the ICANN nominating committee before, and now he's a member of the ICANN organization as staff. He did some research and he provided this content for me, which I'm going to share with you. And essentially, the story started with the President Clinton's first term. There was this awareness that the internet is something truly amazing in the American public policy sphere, and it emerged during the mid-1990s. And people in the Clinton administration saw the internet had grown without governmental involvement, except for some support in R&D. And they saw the impact on e-commerce, the potential to change society, essentially a revolution. And they noted that the internet had evolved and grew as various stakeholder groups formed to accomplish specific purposes, rather than in a top-down way that came from government. And so they supported decentralized organizations to emerge to lead the internet's revolution, because the traditional way of doing things was too slow, too bureaucratic, and less flexible than the evolving internet. And this policy orientation set the stage for the development of ICANN and its very particular multi-stakeholder model. By 1996 and 97, when global discussions were taking place about what would become ICANN, there was also a debate about the notion of stakeholder leadership. According to what Adam Peake discovered, Ira Magaziner, Clinton policy advisor who led ICANN's creation, spoke of decentralized systems of issue or function-specific organizations. Now, these new organizations, he believed, should not overreach or outlast the specific purpose for which they were formed. And today, in ICANN, we still have reviews of organizations to look at whether or not structures within ICANN itself are still relevant and effective. Now, Magaziner wasn't just thinking about ICANN, but adopting this stakeholder approach for the internet policy broadly. Let's go to the next slide. So the initial ideas that laid the foundation for ICANN: issue-specific stakeholder organizations, decentralized and international, bottom-up, led by stakeholders, defining issues and identifying and implementing solutions, not monolithic, different organizational structures for different issues, and continuing to evolve. Larry Strickling in 2015, when he initiated the IANA stewardship transition, sealed the policy orientation on the multi-stakeholder model for ICANN. The parameters were multi-stakeholder approach with full involvement of all stakeholders in consensus-based decision-making, operating in an open, transparent, and accountable manner. All very hard to achieve, but all excellent ideals, and we're all striving to achieve it. Let's go to the next slide. So here, again, I just wanted to recap on characteristics of the multi-stakeholder approach or model. It's bottom-up. Stakeholders define issues, they identify and devise solutions, and in the process, the continuous questioning of, are the right stakeholders participating? Who is missing? How can we bring them in? That is a continuous challenge. The multi-stakeholder approach is also consensus-based. Decisions that are acceptable with widespread support and no strong or reasoned opposition. And the key question to ask in that process is, can we live with this? Will we die over it or won't we die over it? And the decision-making itself may not necessarily be unanimous, but there is agreed consensus. The process is inclusive, open, and participative. There is a reduction of barriers and disadvantage, which involves lots of capacity development and openness of processes and meetings. Continuing on the multi-stakeholder approach characteristics. And these characteristics are actually related and interlinked. Transparency. Documented processes following agreed procedures where decisions are explained and accessible. Characteristic of accountable. Decisions and decision-making processes are justifiable. There are mechanisms of review and redress. There are checks and balances. Supportive of meaningful participation. Actively seek to involve stakeholders, enable their participation in processes with capacity development, outreach and engagement programs, fairness to strive for fairness by not favoring one over another, and to have representation from stakeholders, selected by stakeholders rather than dictated by others. And being flexible, to be future-oriented and able to accommodate change. This multi-stakeholder model is one of collective responsibility and of collaboration. And the legitimacy can also be enhanced through the quality of the product. Earlier you had a panel that talked about the IANA stewardship transition and the enhancements to ICANN accountability mechanism. That's a product of a process. And if the product is good, then ICANN's, or perception of the world's public perception of ICANN in terms of its legitimacy increases. So if you continue to do your job well and you follow the process with the parameters of quality to it, I think you have a good chance of succeeding. I'm not saying that it's easy to do at all, but that's something to aspire to as well. So let's move on. So I come back to the question of who are stakeholders, and because there's a particular point that I would like to convey. The typical stakeholders, as I said before, they assume to have a baseline of three: government, business, civil society. And then when you look at the purpose of the organization itself, and there you will find stakeholders that are specific to the issue area. So I will go later on into slides that show you the differentiation of stakeholder groups and the range of it within the ICANN system, specific to its mission. And I want to say that the multi-stakeholder obligation is not to include everyone, it is to include all affected perspectives, so that the perspectives can contribute to problem solving. So it's a little bit different from the democratic value of everyone can be involved. You can be involved, but what's required is to make sure that those who are affected are present. Okay? And the challenge is achieving representation and enabling participation and inclusiveness. So I just want to expand on that just a little bit more. While democratic processes are based on the notion that all affected individuals will have the right to vote, the multi-stakeholder process is actually about all affected perspectives being represented and decisions made based on consensus. Governments are considered to be an affected party in multi-stakeholder deliberations, and this is sometimes forgotten. So one of the great challenges of the multi-stakeholder model is how to achieve the representation of all affected perspectives. And the internet has global impact, and we need to hear the global diversity of views, but this is not always easily achievable. Representation of affected parties is essential to legitimacy, and in the context of ICANN, this is fundamental to ICANN. It is the reason for its outreach work, presence in every region, holding of 3 meetings each year at different locations and regions around the world, with diversity requirements and commitment to internationalization. So ICANN strives to create awareness about its work and the issues that it is grappling with, because it needs to bring in the affected perspectives, which is not easy to achieve. And it strives to encourage and bring them in. And effective representation is another challenge. It's not just, okay, the affected perspectives are present through the individuals, but how do they participate effectively? And this again involves capacity building and other types of support. Next slide. So the rest of the presentation will focus on the multi-stakeholder model at ICANN itself. I think you've heard, you have a question?
I have a comment.
I'm sorry?
I have a comment.
You have a comment,
Yes.
please.
For me,
this is a question from Pakistan. For me, the biggest challenge is I think not to attract the people having mistakes. I think the biggest challenge is consensus. Because if we gather people from different backgrounds, different stakeholder groups, it's very hard, it's very tough to reach consensus.
Yes, I agree. I would say that you have 2 levels of difficulty there. Bringing them to the table, and then having them effectively engage in decision making, and then the problem of reaching consensus. All of those are, for me, equally hard. But thank you for sharing. So let's go to the next slide. So within ICANN's multi-stakeholder model, the stakeholders include civil society, internet end users, businesses, governments, which are both national and international, research, academic and technical communities. That's sort of like a large category. Hi Dave, I did notice you. And so these stakeholders form the ICANN community, and they are housed in different structures within ICANN. In the next few slides, you will see their houses. The multi-stakeholder model functions on bottom-up consensus building, which we just discussed with the participant just now. And the model is designed to be resistant to capture. And we have to be extra sensitive to those who have more influence or power within a multi-stakeholder context. And we need to ensure always there is balance of interest. And that, again, is not easy to do. And in order to be resistant to capture, the mechanisms that need to be in place include openness, diversity, and equal division of authority among participants. And this is what's unusual about the ICANN environment versus others. In other environments, different stakeholders have different weightage or authority. The government may have more influence, or the private sector may have more influence. Within ICANN, it's almost equal. So the internet is now so essential and vital to all our interests that how the internet is managed and how its policies are made affects us all. And ICANN believes that this multi-stakeholder model is the appropriate model for its governance and management, particularly post-transition with the empowered community and enhanced accountability mechanism. So I don't know how well you can, are you able to read the small text on the screen?
No.
No? Okay. Is there a roving mic? Okay. If you can't see it, I'll read it for you. So, the business community would include private sector companies and trade associations. The technical community would likely include protocol developers, equipment and software developers, network operators, technical researchers. Domain name industry include registries, registrars, domain organizations. Governments and governmental organizations include national governments, distinct economies recognized in international fora, multinational governmental and treaty organizations, public authorities, including UN agencies with a direct interest in global internet governance. For the academic community, we typically have academic leaders, institutions of higher learning, professors and students, internet users, that's all of us. If we take off all of our other hats, that's us. Civil society, non-commercial, non-profit, non-governmental organizations that include, there's also non-profits, non-commercial users, think tanks, and charities. So that's a look at stakeholder categories of the range of actors that lie within. Pass this back to you. Let's go to the next slide. And here you have structures that house the ICANN community, how those range of actors are organized to actually do policy development and provide advice. You are shaking your head. Why is that?
No, since you know so all that are.
Yes, exactly. So I think you've heard it before, but I'll just repeat it. On the far left is the Governmental Advisory Committee that houses all the governmental actors that we saw before. The Country Code Name Supporting Organization, they develop certain policies that pertain to country code top-level domain. The Generic Name Supporting Organizations, they focus on the development of generic top-level domains. The Root Server System Advisory Committee look after the security and stability of the root server system. Security and Stability Advisory Committee, the ISAC, look after the security, stability, and resiliency of the DNS. Address Supporting Organization comes up with policy related to IP addressing. And the at-large community, internet users, they provide advice on anything that pertains to the interests of internet end users in ICANN. And this is the bottom-up multi-stakeholder model. The advisory committees generate advice, either to the board or horizontally to the policy development supporting organizations. And the supporting organizations actually generate policy. And what is expected is that in the policy development process, there is engagement, so that the policy that comes out in the end is actually a good one, well-reasoned, containing all the affected perspectives, but sometimes it just doesn't happen that way. Sometimes the governments are not able to participate while the process is happening, and then when the policy came out, they don't think it's good for public policy, and they come in with an advice that goes against it. And that is a problem. And the challenge is actually enabling all the participants to come in at the start and move along together and address all the challenges together. That is the idea. Next. So the ICANN ecosystem, with the new CEO, he came in and decided that we need more clarity in terms of how we're organized. We essentially have an ecosystem made up of three components. The ICANN community, which, with all the range of actors that you saw before. The ICANN organization, which essentially comprises staff, and the ICANN board of directors. And here I just want to recap about the role of the ICANN community that sets policy. So ICANN follows consensus-driven, multi-stakeholder processes where the global internet community is represented. By consensus, we mean decisions that are acceptable with widespread support and no strong or reasoned opposition. You can live with it, you won't die over it, and it is not necessarily unanimous. We also use the term bottom-up. This means ICANN policies come from the community and are developed by community-driven processes. Next slide. So here we come to the decision making. And here again, it's another unique point in multi-stakeholder initiatives. In a lot of multi-stakeholder initiatives at the global level, there is no decision making. There is only agenda setting, influencing what goes on the agenda of decision makers. In ICANN, there is actually decision making. So the ICANN board reviews and adopts policies that are developed by the supporting organization. And then we direct the ICANN organization to implement them. There are 20 board members, 16 voting directors, and 4 liaisons. And they could be construed as multi-stakeholderism at work, depending on how they got sent to the board. For example, all the supporting organizations would select 2 voting directors. The at-large community of end users select 1 director. That's me, and previously my predecessor, Sebastian Bacholet, who you heard earlier. The advisory committees from the government and technical communities each select 1 director. And then the nominating committee, which is an independent community-organized committee tasked with selecting 8 members of the board directors and other key positions within ICANN structure, contribute to that diversity. So if you look at the picture and you see where the board directors come from, you could say that too is multi-stakeholder. But there is a caveat. When you are appointed to the ICANN board of directors, you have to be independent. That means you leave your community interest at the door and you act in the service of the organization of ICANN that includes its totality. So if I represent the at-large, for example, when I'm in the board of directors and engaging in deliberation, I have to care for the entire community and not just the at-large community. And this is quite important. So, and then I just want to make a point that the person in gray, you only see 1 person. All the other people have color and there is 1 person in gray. That's the ICANN CEO who leads staff of the ICANN organization. Now the ICANN staff do not create policy, but staff supports and resources the worldwide community who determine internet policy in bottom-up manner, and it is staff that also support the board in decision making. So we cannot really make things work without this support. They are quite instrumental. Let's go to the next slide. So I want to end with 3 slides. 2 of them are about challenges that we've talked about before. So if you reflect on all the experiences related to multi-stakeholderism, you will encounter these challenges and you will spend your entire engagement time actually trying to address them, whether it's short-term, medium-term, or long-term. The first challenge is sustainability, particularly if your multi-stakeholder initiative is driven by volunteers. How do you sustain volunteer interest? How do you ensure they can spend time when they have to earn a living elsewhere? Because in the ICANN context, there are those who are remunerated to go and take care of certain interests, and there are others who are doing it purely out of the larger good or the public interest. Second challenge is establishing and sustaining legitimacy, and legitimacy based on accountability imperatives: transparency, participation, appeals, and redress. Now, these are extremely challenging to uphold continuously in a dynamic and evolving context of operation. Third challenge, ensuring effectiveness. Like I said before, it's not enough to be able to get to the table, you have to be able that you are actively representing the affected interests. So for this, you need efficiency, adaptability, scalability, speed of response, particularly with growing numbers of stakeholders vis-a-vis the requirement for negotiated outcomes. And don't forget the requirement for knowledge. That's very important, and learning together to solve the problem. Next challenge, correctly identifying the resources needed for delivering solutions. Knowledge, capacity, competence, the right delivery partner. The next challenge, under-resourcing key organizational skills that act as a glue in multi-stakeholder initiatives. A lot of people forget that they actually need good facilitation, process management, skills in correctly underestimating the difficulty in reaching common goals and activities. Skills in correctly estimating the difficulty in reaching common goals and activities. So you need to spend extra effort on building the capacity of chairs of working groups that work on problem, or chairs of other initiatives that solve different kinds of problems. Next slide. More on challenges. 5 more. Balancing the different interests of the stakeholders, ensuring that one does not over-dominate. Next challenge, how to represent the interests of those who are marginalized and voiceless, not at the table, does not speak the language, requires facilitation to understand the intricacies of the issues, and requiring time to get up to speed when the issue has moved. That's a challenge. Determining what is a fair level of contribution from each partner or stakeholder, because we need a balance of interest. When a certain part of the community is not able to contribute to a particular policy issue for whatever reason, that balance is affected. A sustainable working relationship based on trust, mutual respect, open communication, and understanding among stakeholders about each other's strengths and weaknesses. This is not often discussed. You sort of come to the table and you accept that, okay, these are my colleague stakeholders with different interests. But you never talk about saying that I come from the private sector, these are my interests, and you come from that sector and these are your interests, and you put it down on the table. In ICANN, the way to deal with that is the conflict of interest policy, to actually declare it. But sometimes it's not always so evident, and I think that extra effort is needed to bring it forward. Stakeholders from each sector bring their own organizational mandates, interests, competencies, and weaknesses to partnerships and multi-stakeholder relationships. Without open acknowledgement of these factors, without processes in place to facilitate negotiations among stakeholders for optimal outcomes, effective collaborations will not emerge. And finally, ensuring that the long-term interest of the public is not harmed by negotiated outcomes among stakeholders. Because sometimes when you come into a process where you need everyone to agree, the outcome that you settle on may not be what's the best. It could be what you just settled on. And that's always always have to do that. Let's go to the next slide. This is my last slide, and I just want to repeat what I said in the beginning. I believe that the ICANN multi-stakeholder model is a best practice, particularly after the IANA transition and with the enhanced accountability measures and the establishment of the empowered community, because that is actually shared decision-making. And that's really quite empowering for everyone who's involved and ensures accountability. And hopefully, increasing effectiveness of delivery. Thank you. I'm just looking for guidance in terms of. Are there questions and questions or contributions that you want to make, reflections that you have after listening to that? Yes. Is there anybody over here?
Thank you for the very informative sharing of the information, and I very much agree with the effectiveness of the multi-stakeholder model, because from the Asia Pacific point of view, and while we are participating in ICANN, for instance, we are following the address or something like discussing specific issues. We just read them, but it's very hard for us to make contribution. It's maybe because of the language, or it's maybe because of the time figures, but mainly it's the capacity building. We have to say that we lag behind in Asia Pacific in lots of things, especially their viewpoints and how to do effective contributions, etc. So our participation is one thing, effective engagement is more important. So do we have kinds of solution to that right now? Because we need Asia Pacific region to be more effective in that participation.
So I have some ideas. I've been advocating these ideas. There are challenges in having them implemented. I think that to enhance the probability and the ability of regional stakeholders to engage, you actually need to have policy-making activities that are held at the regional level before they go up to the global level. And the resistance that comes in that, they're saying that the policy that we're developing is global and therefore it requires this global participation, but people haven't been able to figure out yet how to break that into, here's the regional component, here's how it feeds into the global part. And the additional challenge is that you also need resources to be able to have these parallel tracks and then merging the two. I I hear your pain, I see your pain, I experience your pain myself with the call times that are completely crazy and having to be lucid with serious issues to discuss at midnight or 4 a.m. and it's very hard to do that. But please continue to raise the problem. If you have ideas for solving it, share it until there is enough critical mass for change to happen. I see.
Hi, I'm Swati. My question is about balancing stakeholder interests. So how does it actually happen? What if they do not come to consensus? Is there any mediating body or person who does that, and how does it happen? What if they are not coming to a consensus, and who makes the final decision?
So this is a very good question. Within the ICANN context, there has been some instances where consensus could not be achieved. When the board receives a policy, it looks at how much consensus that policy has achieved in its review of whether or not to accept or reject. There are also situations where policy is developed, it has consensus, but then you have GAC advice or governmental advice saying that it doesn't agree. And in that situation, then you need to have mediation or facilitation to bring the two parties together to see if agreement can be brokered. If agreement cannot be achieved, the board is in a difficult position. It has to consider whether or not which part it should accept. I would say at this point in time, we would reject both and force them to come to an agreement. That would hopefully come up with the best outcome possible. The challenge is it continues to be that way and nothing moves.
What about rough consensus?
I'm sorry? Rough consensus. Yes, if you can get to rough consensus, that's good, and from there you can move on. But sometimes it's just a problem of not being able to be in the same room to discuss the problem. And sometimes you say, okay, we'll have the leaders from this group and the leaders from this group come together and discuss. They have an outcome, but the rest of the groups don't agree because they were not really involved in it and they don't trust it. So I think if that happens, then we have to create a process that brings the entire two parties together so that there is ownership of the brokered consensus. And I'm saying it in very general terms, but they're actually based on things that are happening right now. I see him first and then I come to you, Izumi. Is that okay? Yeah. Go ahead, because he has the mic.
Thank you, Izumi. And thank you first for the very comprehensive and systematic input from all of the multi-stakeholders. And as we